Hi everyone, how you doing? Hope you had a good day today and I hope you were really, really good. And did you like my long story? It was quite a long story, wasn't it? But I I really enjoyed it. I like Mr. Wumble and I like the Dragon Wumble. So that was a good story. Anyway, if you finish that one, I've got a new one for you today called He Didn't Believe in Fairies. So, if you're sitting comfortably, then Nana will begin. There was once a farmer who didn't believe in fairies. You should have heard him laugh when fairies were mentioned. Why, he almost deafened you. Now, I expect you've heard it said that only those who believe in the little folk ever see them. Those who don't believe in them can't see them, even if they were right under their noses. And often the fairies play tricks on these people just to teach them. Farmer Straw only believed in horses, cows, sheep, and things like that. If you mentioned such things as dragons, unicorn, witches, or pixies, he would explode with laughter and call you a ninny. The fairy folk used to listen, and they laughed too. It was really funny to them. You see, to think that people said that they weren't there when they knew quite well that they were. Now, Farmer Straw had a very fine mushroom field. So had his neighbour, Farmer Twinkle. That's a nice name, isn't it? And his other neighbour, Dame Busy. And in the autumn, they all got up very early in the mornings and went mushrooming. When they sold their mushrooms in the market, they had made a great deal of money. One night, the little folk had a dance in Dame Busy's field. It was a grand dance with the grasshopper band playing Rillaby Rill half the evening. That is the famous elfin tune, you know, that the grasshoppers know so well. There had been all kinds of games too, a most delicious feast, and for once it had ended at cockcrow, hadn't ended at cockcrow, which is when the dawn breaks, but just a little bit later. Now this was a pity, because no sooner did the party break up than a rainstorm had begun. How it poured, how it pelted! The fairies, pixies and elves raced for the shelter of the mushrooms that had shot up in the night. They crouched beneath them and tried to keep their lovely frocks from being splashed. They hoped the rain would stop soon. But it didn't. No, it went on and on and on. Goodness, the little folk couldn't possibly go home in it. They would be wet through. And see, there were lights in the farmhouse. People were getting up early to go mushrooming. Then, what would happen to the fairies? Dame Busy came out of her farmhouse with a big basket. "Hey, little folk," cried an elf, "we shall be caught here if Dame Busy arrives before we go. She believes in fairies, you know, and she'll see us here under the mushrooms. Let us quickly run to the mushrooms in the other field, those belonging to Farmer Twinkle." So off the fairy folk scuttled through the wet grass and the rain, and soon they were safely sheltering under Farmer Twinkle's mushrooms. But dear me, it wasn't long before the farmer opened his farmhouse door and came out to go mushrooming too. So off went the fairies again, this time to Farmer Straw's mushrooms, and bother me if his door didn't open, and out he came to go mushrooming. "Our luck is getting out this morning," the elf cried. "Whatever can we do? There were no more mushrooms to shelter us from this dreadful rainstorm. We shall have to go home, and oh dear, what colds we shall get, for we shall be soaked through." "No, don't let's get wet," cried a pixie. "There's no need to. Let's each pick our mushroom and use it like the humans use umbrellas. We can carry them all the way home and never get wet at all. As for old Farmer Straw, he won't see us, for he doesn't believe in fairies. Ho, ho." "Ho, ho, ho," laughed all the little fairy folk delightedly, and then they each picked a mushroom, and holding it above their bright little heads, they made their way across the wet field down to Little Wood where they lived. Farmer Straw met them as he came to the field with his basket. Yes, he met them. He couldn't see the fairies, of course, because he didn't believe in them. All he saw was a row of big mushrooms walking solemnly along in the rain. He stood and stared with his mouth wide open. Then he gave a scream of fright and ran back to his farm. Oh, I'm going mad! I've seen mushrooms walking! Oh, what shall I do? Don't be so silly, shouted Dame Busy and the farmer Twinkle. It's only the little folk using them as umbrellas. I don't believe in fairies, yelled Farmer Straw. No, that I don't. Oh, well, if you like to believe in mushrooms walking off by themselves instead of the little folk, you do as you like, said Dame Busy scornfully. But it seems to me it'd be much easier to believe in the fairies than in walking mushrooms. Farmer Straw looked back at the row of bobbing mushrooms, half believing in the little folk for a moment, and just for that moment he saw a roguish face peeping at him from under the mushroom, and caught a glint of a silvery pair of wings. But it was gone in a flash. Only ninnies believe in fairies, he said. I'm not a ninny. There's something gone wrong with my eyes this morning, that's all, or else I'm not properly awake yet. Oh, I'd rather believe in walking mushrooms than a dozen fairies, that I would. But I wouldn't, would you? Anyway, Farmer Straw lost all his mushrooms that day, and you should have heard the little folk laugh about it. Farmer Straw thought it was the swallows twittering, but it wasn't. Oh, I like that one. That was really good, wasn't it? So the little fairies, if you believe in little fairies, you might see them. Silly Farmer Straw. I don't know. Of course fairies, you need to believe in fairies. They're all at the bottom of the garden. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you again tomorrow for another story. So sleep really, really well. I love you loads and loads, so be really, really good. So night-night, Atty, I love you. Night-night, Ruby, I love you. Night-night, Max, I love you. And night-night, Torby Tumble, I love you too. Be good, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.